Joining me is the former NRL player and 2004 Premiership winner Braith Anasta, plus former St Kilda and North Melbourne AFL star Nick Dal Santo. Gentlemen, thanks as always. Braith, to you first of all. The NRL still trying to be creative, still trying to be hopeful of getting back on the field, possibly as early as July 1 with some sort of special quarantine approach.
Yeah, it's an innovation committee led up by Wayne Pearce that's trying to get the game back on the field. A big job for them. They've got 14 days to submit this to both Volandis and Greenberg, who will then put it before the NRL Commission. And then I suppose if they give the approval, then it's got to go through federal and state governments. But the idea of it all is that they're pretty much got to isolate every player and every staff member in a particular area, whether that be up in North Queensland or 4 different areas in 4 different states. I'm not sure. It's a big job for them to come up and try and pull off, really, for Wayne Pearce and his team. And then, I mean, we all know the position that everyone's in this country at the moment. So, I mean, they called it the Apollo because it was like man landing on the moon. At the start, I thought it was going to be probably easier to land on the moon than to pull this off. But Wayne Pearce has got a big job ahead of him. But what has changed the landscape of this for mine has been the players. The players have taken a 5-month pay cut. I think that's a bit of a reality check for them. They are happy. All the leadership and the players that are in our game that are speaking at the moment are happy to be secluded from their family and friends, to be isolated, to get this game underway and to get back onto the field. So that's a big change and a big development for the game. They're going to do everything that they possibly can. It's going to be very difficult, but it shows the determination that they do have, and who knows, they could be back on in a few months.
Yeah, well, let's hope so, because I tell you what, it'd be a boost for morale. And the same is said of the AFL. Nick, in terms of suggestions that the clubs would be given a mini 3-week pre-season, no opportunity for practice matches before they get started, and they're still targeting the May 31 resumption date.
Yeah, and I think that's all we can really ask for at this stage. And Braith, I sit down here in Melbourne and I hear these stories about being removed from your family, and I find it a little bit entertaining at some point, to be completely honest with you, and it has been thrown up from an AFL perspective as well. I just think for our game and how hard it is because so many states are involved, I think it is extremely challenging. Now, it is another suggestion that AFL is going through as well. There's also been suggestions of at least 10 contingency plans that will have deadlines and will ultimately get ticked off or crossed off along the way about what could possibly fit into the rest of 2020 to make an AFL season out of it. I'm not sure for us if isolating the whole playing group is realistic or even possible. But what I know, and speaking to some players and people involved at football clubs, they are at least waiting for the next 2 months and are expecting to be back in the next 2 months, and then to have, as you said, that 3-week training block before games resumed. And I think that's all we can really ask from their players at this particular point, just because there's still so much unknown.
There is so much unknown. Thankfully, the health indications are looking better, so hopefully with that, the sporting codes can make the appropriate judgments as well. I want to play you both comments made by Eddie Maguire, this in relation to club memberships, of course, of which he's got a big interest too.
If you don't have members, you don't have a club. A club that has no members is a memory. So we need our members to stick with us as much as we can.
If a member comes to you now and says, I've lost both my jobs, I need my money back, you would say...
Tony, you've got to listen to me, mate. We are in it together. We look after our members. They're parts of our family.
Would you give the money back?
Tony, if you came to me and said, Ed, I need a loan at the moment, do you reckon I'd help you? Of course we would.
And hopefully, Braith, for the members that Eddie Maguire is talking about and that he represents for Collingwood, and the NRL members as well, that they'll have their beloved teams back on the paddock sooner rather than later.
Yeah, there's no doubt about that. Kieran, I think if any member has got financial hardship and needs that money back from membership, you just give it straight back to them. There's no questions asked. I can see both sides of the story there. I think what Eddie was trying to say, if you can afford it and you can still support the club and keep it alive, then please do that. But of course, if you're struggling and you can't pay for it and you need that money back, which a lot of members would at the moment, both in the NRL and the AFL, it's a no-brainer. You just give the money back. But you know, I could see where Eddie was getting at there. I know Tony Jones was trying to bait him. It's all part of the fanfare and journalism. But you know, I don't think Eddie handled it the best way. But it was sure entertaining to watch. And
Nick, your thoughts on that? Because I think, to be honest, most footy fans that I know and some of the tragic AFL fans I know, particularly in this particular bureau where I work in Canberra, the last thing they give back or give up is their membership, regardless of how tough things were.
Some people would give their kids back before they give back their football membership, wouldn't they? Particularly in this self-isolation period. You quickly remember how much you love your job when you're with your kids 24 hours a day. But just to touch on that conversation between TJ and Ed, I completely understand and I agree with Braith that if you're in the position where you can keep your money within that football club, then I think they are saying, please continue to support us, that we are desperate for that money. But one thing that is different with the membership is it's not a donation. You give a certain amount of money and you get something back as a transaction. That's going to having the ability to go and watch your football team every week. Just to share a quick story, and it has done the rounds over the last 24, 48 hours. There was a lovely story coming out of Essendon over the weekend where I believe a mother of 2 young kids, she'd lost her job or had limited work because of coronavirus, and her husband was in the same situation. She wrote an email to Essendon saying, well, it's either we put food on the table for our family or it's our membership, so can we please have our money back? And a player, one of the key defenders for Essendon, Michael Hurley, actually paid the difference, actually allowed her to maintain her membership. So they gave her money back and Michael Hurley took on the bill. So when you hear nice stories about that, and when we speak about sport, it's all about the passion and that family sort of bond.
Yeah.
That's the really good stories out of it. I think they're rare, but that was a real heartwarmer over the weekend.
Yeah, absolutely, and good on Michael for doing that. Nick Dalceno, Braith Anasta, thanks as always, gents. We'll talk to you again next week.